For an advance payment of 12 million credits, I can produce and deliver the mech to you within half a month. You can pay the other half once the MTA certifies my mech. Seeing Vez wasn't willing to bargain, the rowdy mercenary turned away. No thanks, I just don't have the cash. As the final match culminated in a rousing finale, Vez was facing his own defeat. He still hadn't achieved a single sale, and he was getting very nervous. This was the best opportunity he would ever have to put his mech in front of the wealthiest and most established mech purchasers in the business. After the unofficial holiday ended, they would return to their offices and factories, and it would become near impossible to find a buyer for the Mark Antony. The only option he had would be to post an ad on the MTA's internal market board and cross his fingers that some would pick it out of the hundreds of thousands of alternative offers. The despair started to build inside him. He was desperate. The more he interacted with the people around him, the more he realized the mech trade was more insular than he thought. Clearly, the vibrant market the MTA portrayed was a long way from the real situation on the ground. The MTA's market communities mostly encompassed entire star sectors. Vez was starting to realize that by setting up his mech boutique on Cloud Curtain, he'd inadvertently isolated himself from his clientele. A quiet environment, lack of competitors, and favorable taxes meant nothing if he was unable to earn any revenue. He also lacked the money or connections to get ahead. Although he was a Larkinson, the family would never consider subsidizing his business or purchasing his mech. Although they had amassed a considerable number of credits over the years, they were specifically reserved for emergencies. Using the money to save a failed business was not in the family's collective interests. Without the support of any substantial influence, Vez felt like a boat lost at sea and unable to reach dry land. Hello there, Vez. Whoa! Vez had been lost in thought, and the sound of his name had made him jump. He turned around and was faced with the test pilot who had piloted his mech during the qualifiers. Hans, I didn't expect to see you here. I'm an active serviceman as well. Now I've finished my duties. I thought I'd drop by and check out the finals. Sadly, it looks like I came too late. Anyways, why do you look so down? Vez told him what had been happening and the difficulties he was experiencing, pushing his new design. I'm not surprised no one's taken you up on your offer. Aside from the issues you've already mentioned, the main reason no one wants to put an order through is that your design hasn't been tested. We pilots don't trust the spec sheets produced by the MTA. They've got them wrong so many times before, and that will keep happening until they lose the monopoly they have in mech management. Pilots like to look at how a mech actually performs in the field, rather than at a bunch of abstract numbers that are probably fudged up. The numbers are completely reliable. I've achieved a small amount of success selling virtual versions of my Mark Antony on Iron Spirit. So far, not a single customer has complained about any deviations from the mech's official performance figures. Hans's tone became more serious. I advise you not to bring up the virtual games. At our level, no one takes Iron Spirit seriously. The inaccuracy and deviance from actual piloting is more pronounced at the higher ranks of the game. It takes a lot of effort to adjust to two different environments. So most older mech pilots don't bother maintaining an active presence on Iron Spirit. Well, what about you? You did a great job piloting my Drake through the gauntlet. Are you interested in a purchase? The test pilot shook his head. I don't earn enough to be able to afford a personal mech for myself. And my job is to test out new designs. So I don't really stick to just one mech at work. Vez was faced with yet another disappointment. He was sure that if a pilot as friendly as Hans refused to buy his mech, then his chances of convincing other pilots was practically zero. Hans saw how crushed the young man looked and thought for a moment. I might know someone who could be persuaded to take a chance on your design. I'll do you a favor and introduce him to you. But it's down to you to close the deal. A chance is all I'm asking for, and I'm very grateful for any help you can give me. Hans led Vez through the crowd of spectators at a leisurely pace, stopping every now and again to watch the elaborate award ceremony, which was taking place below. The YTE was specifically organized by the Republic to glorify young heroes, so a lot of fanfare accompanied the awarding prizes. They headed to one of the private boxes. Hans deliberately knocked on the door with a specific rhythm, and a beep sounded as the lock disengaged. As they entered the room, Vez looked around and saw rows of chairs and couches, most of which were empty. In the center of the room was a large armchair, and on it was sat an old, gray-haired veteran. Despite being on the other side of the room, Vez could tell the man had a dominating and authoritative presence, and he was immediately reminded of his grandfather. Captain Rodello, nice to see you again. I see you've brought a guest. Colonel, this is Vez Larkinson. He was the runner-up in the Fusion Cup. Vez, this is Colonel Ares Huntington. The retired colonel snorted. Won a medal and a couple of perks. That's not much compared to the young warriors on stage right now. He's not the pilot, and I'm not bringing him here to join your club. I just thought that since you have so much free time on your hands, you might be interested in what Vez is selling. Oh? The colonel studied Vez closely. So what is it that you are trying to sell me? And I warn you, it better be good. Vez could tell the colonel was taking the situation seriously, and he knew he had to make the most of what was likely the best opportunity of the night. He adopted a calm and professional tone as he explained the capabilities of his mech. Colonel Huntington's expression remained neutral as Vez provided the details and specifications of the Mark Antony, elaborating on both its strengths and weaknesses. He knew revealing his mech's shortcomings was a dangerous strategy, but he didn't want to risk being called out by the old man. The colonel listened, without interrupting until Vez finally concluded by detailing the price. And so the whole package can be yours for just 24 million bright credits. Once I receive an advance payment of 50%, I will begin production of the mech as soon as I get back to my workshop, and I'll have it ready for you within 2 weeks. Vez fell silent, and Colonel Huntington mumbled inaudibly to himself as he stroked his chin. Vez could tell he was wavering, but he had no idea what was stopping him from taking the leap. What's putting him off? Is it the armor? Or maybe it's the lack of specialties. If he would just tell me, I could put his mind at ease. But Vez knew he would just end up repeating what he had already said. His best bet was to stay silent and let the colonel think. After several minutes of consideration, the old man finally replied. No, you make a compelling case, but it's not what I need right now. Vez was devastated. He had felt so close to a sale, and he desperately wanted to know why the colonel had turned down his offer. But before he could ask, Colonel Huntington waved them away insensitively. Captain Rodello, this was a nice distraction, but don't bring such an irrelevant person to me again. The two of you can go bother someone else now. I won't be seeing you out. Goodbye.
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.